All right. Episode 3, Fields Notes. The name is definitely on the downtrend, isn't it, guys? It's-
He might not be around for long.
Might have to rename this podcast. But also,
Dreams of Bears acquiring Caleb.
if we're talking, the league is what? Fields of Dreams, Dreams of the. We're gonna need something else. This is so sad as Bears fans. The funny thing is, out of this league, Alec is a Bears fan. I'm a Bears fan. Sam
Hey, all,
Kohansky was
all three of
nom.
us are Bears fans now, bro.
No
Yeah,
way.
I'm jumping on the
He's
bandwagon,
jumping on the bandwagon, but he must have jumped off by now.
but I'm quickly getting off the
He's,
bandwagon. Trying to trade DJ Moore, get him off my team. No,
I mean, let's be real, right? So, Bears fan, Austin, despite growing up in Chicago area, he is not a fan of any team.
I don't even know if he likes football.
He is a fan of his fantasy team. Saints fan. We actually have more Saints fans than Bears fans. So
We do
Saints
actually,
fan,
yeah.
Saints fan, Dolphins. Don't know. Do we know what
I
Shane?
think it's a Browns fan.
Browns
Browns fan.
Yeah.
Saints. Don't know. Todd.
Probably Browns as well for Todd.
Kyle.
Browns.
Bears. Chiefs. Actually, fun fact: Jack is a former Dolphins fan, so Dolphins are his second team. But we met in KC, Jack and I. So that was when Mahomes started going crazy. So you got to do what you got to do. And then I'm not sure. The Browns again.
Browns.
I think it's so.
Okay,
Browns have 4.
Browns, Saints, Dolphins, then Chiefs, I guess. So, and then
Are
Bears
you
are
guys giving
Bears
up on
are
the
above.
Bears?
Oh well, until next year.
Hey, we're welcoming the
Until
Saints.
next off season, bro.
Next off season, yeah. I was a big Bears fan this off season.
I love the Bears when they're not playing.
You know, the keep trade cut valuation of Justin Fields was purely based off of Bears fans being delusional. So, anyways, let's see. So, what do we want to talk about? We're thinking we're going to talk about impressions, week 1 through 3. We're going to try to do a weekly podcast. I don't think that'll actually happen, but I'm going to promise it. Trades. We have a lot of trades to talk about. Hopefully, we can just at least talk about some of the interesting ones. It'd be nice to look at the draft as a way too early recap, and then some predictions for week 4. What do you say, guys?
Sounds
Do
good.
it.
All right. Impressions, weeks 1 through 3.
Do we just want to kind of start like where it's like we go around where it's like you'll start, Paul, and then maybe Alec will talk about some impressions that he had that maybe like
Yeah,
are different
I
than
don't know,
yours.
just whatever, you know, like
Let's
just
hear what you got.
jump in when you are have something interesting to say. I would say first impressions has to be, the Alec and I, we were the 1-2 pretty indisputably for years 1 and 2, right? Obviously, we didn't win year 1. Alec won year 2. I came in third both years. But as far as strength of team goes, I think it was pretty clear it was us two. Things have leveled out quite a bit, haven't they? It's a lot more interesting this year.
I've already lost more games than last year.
Yeah. So, Alec, how many games did you lose between
I
years
lost-
1 and 2?
Well, year 1 was an unlucky year.
That's true,
I-
right?
I think I ended up going 9-5 year 1, not including playoffs.
So we're looking
And
at.
then
So I was 11-3. You were 9-5, but you had the second most points for by quite a bit. And you were right behind me in points for. Of course, it was Byron that won that year off the back of TJ Watt, and he might do it again this year. Let's.
either way, I would say it's been a crazy start to the year so far. There's so many players having pop off weeks, so many stud players having dud weeks that you wouldn't expect, and there's just a lot of volatility within the standings.
Yeah, so Alec and I both 1 and 2. A lot of changes there. Alec didn't really sell anything this offseason except for Franklin. I sold a little bit of defense, and then ended
Sam's
up
going to
selling
disagree with that
Ridley.
statement.
Don't forget about Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen. That's a pretty big story right there. That's an interesting trade to look at. Guys, what do you think here? Is Todd going to make the playoffs?
Sam, you can go ahead with this one if you want to
You're
start.
just gonna pass that to me.
It sounded like you had something to say. I have things to say, but
I was gonna say that I feel like I started off pretty hot last year. I think I might have started like 2-1, and it's like it's good to start like with an undefeated or kind of like a winning record to start, because it's like you have that momentum, and if like he were to win games that
are you
are
calling him fool's gold?
no, I could see him sneaking in with the 3-0 start, and his team like scored over 300 this week. So, fantasy is a week by week game, and if he can kind of sneak out some tougher matchups, once you're in the playoffs, you're in the playoffs. And I am not counting out anything this season. It seems like there's a lot of teams that are kind of shaking up the league. So
Strauss having a good start to the year, start to the career. Will Anderson will
Stroud looks like
probably.
a very good pick.
he
Yeah,
does.
Stroud's looking great. I know he got poo-pooed a lot, right, in the off season. People always thought of him as the third one, but I thought that he was going to be just fine. He had some really strong performances from his defense that might not be repeatable. I mean, Logan Wilson's not going to be getting 2 interceptions every week, but 25 points isn't ridiculous.
Logan
I
Wilson is top 12 linebacker in my opinion.
yeah. Uh,
I will say,
666 points against. A lot of
yeah,
that
I mean
is week
that's
one
the
for
biggest
me.
thing.
So
But that's, I mean, this record here is giving me Adcock in our first season vibes. A team that didn't like score that many points, but ran into some good matchups and then snuck into the playoffs.
I'm going to say Todd's not going to make the playoffs, and that's because there's so many contenders here for playoffs, that is. So we can all agree that Kyle and Jack are out of the picture completely, and I think they're happy to agree with that. And I wouldn't really consider Mike a contender to make the playoffs, and I don't really know about Zach Adcock, if he's going to make the push for the playoffs or not. If he wants to make the push for the playoffs, I think he could easily be one of the contenders for the playoffs. Besides that, everybody
Based
else.
on my intel, he's not going for the playoffs.
Okay. Some little inside information there. But Shane, yeah. Austin, yeah. Sam, yeah. Zach, yes. Andrew, he made that move for Max Crosby.
What was that enough?
It's
He's in the playoffs now.
not necessarily enough, but it's somebody. It means that he's pushing for it. He's not tanking this year.
It's true.
Alec and me. So what's that? Eight players competing for 4 spots. If Todd's one of those, I definitely wouldn't. Even at 3-0, I don't really believe in him to make one of those 6 spots.
It's
I
gonna be
don't
competitive.
think he's going to be a top point scorer, but it's very possible that he just lucks into some favorable matchups and has a top 5 seed, and then it doesn't matter how many points he scored. Could we possibly go back to last year or 2 years ago? I would like to see the records of the 4-5 seeds.
I'm gonna just pull these. It seems like we're looking at the past leagues a lot. I'll just pull them both up.
So let's see, 5th seed, 4th seed, 8 and 6, 8 and 6. This is 22, and then what about 21? 5th seed, 9 and 5. That's a little bit tougher, but you got 3 wins under your belt already.
Although
It's not
importantly, in 2021, Mike would have been the one who gets the 6th seed, not Zach,
right. He would have.
in with our
So
current
it
rules.
seems if you can get to 8 wins, your probability of making the playoffs are pretty good.
I'm just not sure if it's gonna be the same this year, just with more parity. It felt like years 1 and 2, only 4 teams really believed that they could win it all. Year one, it felt like a top four sort of
Do you
situation.
just think there's going to be a lot of teams that are middling, like 8 and 6, 9 and 5?
I think there's a
Is
lot
that
of
what you're
teams
saying?
that are competing, and as a result,
There are a lot of teams that are competing.
you're not
It
gonna
does
get.
kind of seem like you're not going to have a team that has an insane record, maybe.
Yeah, like maybe we get an 11-3, but I don't think we're getting a 13-1. Certainly
I mean,
not.
that's the best season of all time. Hard to match that.
Can we talk about Jack Tiggs' 1,000 waiver wire left year one?
Well, that's why we've been searching for him, but we found him.
We did
He's
find
back.
him.
He's back, baby.
Who hasn't been messaged by Tig so far? I've gotten messages.
I've gotten
Alex
messages.
gotten messages. He's on it. Something's happening. I don't know what's happened, but
If he could respond to my messages, I would be happy. 'Cause I'm trying to
It
make a
might be
trade.
time to get Tiggs on the podcast.
I was gonna ask him about it if he wanted to join actually, but I forgot. So because I was
That'd be
talking to him
fun.
earlier. Yeah, I could text him. Maybe he'd want to join. He's 2 hours behind, so it's reasonable.
Oh, you
time
think
for
he'd
him.
be around today? I would love to hear some of his insights, actually.
Well, it might be good for him to learn a little bit too, because he's trying to get a feel for
Yeah, shoot out a
valuations
text.
and stuff.
Maybe he'll join in
Yeah.
a little later.
All right, I'll shoot out a text.
Yeah, but anyways, general league structure in the first 3 weeks, it's kind of been flipped on its head. Paul and I not in the playoffs right now, and two guys at the bottom of the bucket last year, 3-1, 2-1 between Andrew and Todd. So it's gonna be an interesting year. Obviously, we're forgetting about like the two guys that we're most excited about too: Sam's team and Austin's team. Totally flipped on its head.
I'm not excited about their teams, but yeah, I see what you're coming at.
The fans of parity in our league, the fans that watch our league.
I preferred it when it was easy for me to get a top two.
Yeah, I liked
I
it
bet
when
you
I
did.
was. I liked it when I was winning 13 games a year.
Yeah, things are different, but
The future is now, old man. Yeah. No, it's fun. Like honestly, it was really, really fun to kind of like make the offseason moves to like become contention level and for like the season to start out this way. And I know Austin's very excited about how his team has started to perform too, and he made that big push after week 1 to start like securing more pieces, making the Calvin Ridley trade, making the Tony Pollard trade, and then in the offseason getting, some big pieces as well. Like I think there's just a lot of people pushing, and then Zach Ford's team like is also very good this season and was good last season, and Tua is really stepping up. Obviously, he's looking like the top 5 quarterback back from all of his injuries. So it's competitive, and I love the parity. It would be fun to make the playoffs this season and to
I think you're gonna make the playoffs, bud.
I hope so.
Okay, so we
Got
started.
a lot of season left.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption, but who knows? Speaking of trades, I'm blown away by how many trades we had this year so far. It's week 3, and I think it's about 35 trades, not including some of the bullshit trades. Look at how many trades happened year 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, like 16 trades. Year 2, we had a few more, maybe more like
You know what
20.
it is? Year 1 was all big trades, and we're having a lot more small trades happen now.
Yeah, people are willing to trade for year 1. People weren't willing to trade for like a DB. They weren't willing to trade for a linebacker. It wasn't
Well,
like
because it's like, what's a third?
had
What's
no
a
idea.
second?
Yeah,
What's a DB? What's a linebacker? Where am I? What year is it?
it was easier to find data points on Zeke Elliott or something where like you could see what other
defense
people
was
are
so
doing.
hard to get like right away.
Yeah.
Like I would be curious to know when the first defensive trade happened in our league and how far into the first season it was, because it was like
Surely it has to be me.
Yeah, I mean, you were definitely early on the like you need defense to win, and I honestly feel like that's why your team was as stacked as it was right away, is because like you traded for some big defensive players.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it was the Roquan.
Roquan, was that
trade.
the first one?
Yeah, looks like it was the Roquan trade. I don't think
you complained
see...
so much about defense for like the first 6 weeks, and then you were like, "Nah, I'll just pick up some defensive players and be good."
Wait, what the hell was this trade? Do you guys remember
What?
this?
Yeah, what the fuck was that, bro? I don't remember that trade at all.
Huh. That's interesting.
It's fun to look back through some of these.
A big Swift trade. First and a second for Elliott. Classic.
Yep.
That was the first trade, right?
That's the one that kicked it all off, because then I was
Yeah.
like, I need to like tear down my team.
I
If I
remember
can get-
being very mad that I wasn't able to. I think I was some away from my phone, and Sam, you had sent me this exact same trade for Diggs, and I wasn't able to accept it, and I wanted to accept it, but
Yeah.
later I got Chase instead with those picks, so that was okay.
I think you're plenty happy.
I'm feeling okay.
Hey, Swift is back on my team, so it all
Wait.
comes back.
Seriously?
Did you not know I have, or not Swift, Diggs? Right?
Oh, okay. I thought that I was like, Swift is definitely on Austin's team, right? But I can't
Yeah.
keep track. You see a lot of players that go from my team to Sam's team to Austin's team to Alex's team.
We do have a bit of a love
It's
connection.
definitely incestual. So it's,
You know, it might be that we communicate with each other a lot. It just could be that.
somebody's calling collusion right now. Probably Zach Ford. So, all right, you want to talk about some trades?
Sure.
Yeah, let's look at the trades this year.
All right.
This-
We're gonna take it from the top.
Since week one.
I'm,
Well, I guess anything we haven't talked about.
oh, I
I
guess
think the last trades we talked about was actually pre-draft trades, because, or like just after our league draft might have been the last time that we talked about trades.
love for the first.
That was talked about.
We talked about this is the most. There's the Zaire. Wow, look at all the trades that have happened since.
I think Zaire is worth 2 firsts now.
Yeah, right.
He does look quite good. I will
he
say
looks
that.
good, but it wasn't. That was never the thing. Was what? I don't think we need to litigate it, but it was never. It never was. Oh, is he going to be good this year? You know.
Now we're backtracking. I see how it is.
That's not true. Okay, do we start with? Do we care about Nolan Smith for Caden Ellis? No.
We did talk about that. So
We talked about
I
that.
think the next trade is actually Wilson and Dotson for Smith, and so that would have
All right,
been
let's
my
start
trade.
with that then.
So scroll down.
Here, Wilson
And-
Dotson.
Yeah. I guess I'll just talk about this one. So I very much wanted a kind of like a bridge quarterback, kind of how they do in the NFL, where it's like you bring in an older veteran quarterback who's going to be productive while your rookie sits on the bench and figures it out. And I definitely employed that in this instance. And I'm happy to have Geno Smith, where got rid of Wilson. He definitely
Sucks.
was a roster clogger and kind of sucked. And Kyle very much wanted Dotson. And honestly, I know Dotson's gonna like perform back up to what he is capable of, but he's had kind of an interesting start to the season where he hasn't necessarily been as like productive as one would think. So I'm happy with the trade. I don't necessarily know how Kyle feels about this trade, but I'm happy to have a good productive quarterback.
It's a nice little
as my
win now trade.
Well, I
feel
can
like,
tell you,
so.
Kyle's happy to have an older guy off his team that in that he could capitalize on his value while he could. And while Dotson hasn't performed well, like you said, there's still optimism for him. I personally am a big Dotson guy. If I was a rebuilding team, I'd be plenty fine just having Dotson sitting there.
I think so too. All right, next trade is Luvu.
Yeah, so like, I mean, here it's interesting to see the wide receiver swap, two young guys who are in. I don't know.
It's actually this is a complete. I would say Luvu and Williams preseason were same tier, and Bateman and Moore preseason same tier, same type of player on both sides, and it was almost 100% a preference type thing. Like, who would you rather have? And obviously the production's different on.
Yeah,
the
so Bateman
linebacker.
stocks have dropped significantly. Right?
I was trying to get out real bad in this trade, so.
And Bateman's one of those guys who's been on a lot of teams, and he's kind of gotten flipped around a little bit, right? And now, I mean, with Zay Flowers kind of breaking out to a certain extent, you can't feel
In
great.
a way,
Who owns Zay Flowers in our league?
That's
Who?
I'm happy to. You know what? I can't wait to talk about the draft because I'm feeling good.
Hmm. All right. Yeah. So I think this one was like Alec was saying, it was pretty like equal. Like at the time of the trade, I feel like Elijah Moore and Bateman were like the same. Like I think they were like wide receiver 40 and wide receiver 41 or something like that at the time of the trade. Like they were truly like neck and neck. And I was just looking to get out of Bateman and get on to someone else who might be a little bit more like tradable than Bateman, just because Bateman had so many question marks on him in preseason. And then I really, really love Lubu. Like, there's a reason I traded back for him after this trade. I think he is kind of one of those like +1 type of linebackers where he gets a lot of tackles. Then he also has like a lot of sacks and a lot of like those you know, big impact plays. So he was destined to come back to my team, as we'll see later in these trades.
So
Well,
was
if you recall,
Elijah?
Sam, you offered Bateman to me prior to this trade, and I didn't like Bateman. So
Mhm.
that trade, that same trade, but then you subbed in Elijah Moore is what later on we'll see ended up. Yeah, we can actually see it right now. Ended up with Keenan Allen on your team.
Hello.
And Keenan Allen's having quite the year, isn't he? So, how do you feel about that, Alec?
I think I wasn't expecting him to have this good of a season. I'll say that much. But the motivation behind the trade was my team was getting old as fuck, and I needed some youth since I had very few draft picks. So I've been happy with Elijah Moore, but I think if you're a Keenan Allen owner, you're even happier right now. So I don't think you're really sad with either player, but
Yeah, that's
Keenan
fair.
Allen,
Elijah Moore, I mean, the production isn't ultra high, but you're getting a ton of targets. He looks
yeah,
good from what I tell.
he's getting a lot of targets in that offense, which
Yeah.
is good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a true turnaround here. We'll see. So,
Sorry, cut out there. What were you saying? Like the last I heard from Alec was, if you recall, you were trying to trade me Bateman, and I didn't like. Sorry.
oh, we're talking
Oh,
about the
okay.
Keenan Allen trade. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you had offered me Bateman, and essentially in the Keenan Allen trade, it was the same exact offer with Elijah Moore and Bateman swapped, and then you went out and you got Elijah Moore, offered that to me, and were able to acquire Keenan Allen, who's having obviously a monster season, big difference
Mhm.
maker for Sam this year.
Yeah.
So we gotta feel. Let's look at this three-way trade. So
First
Austin
three-way
gets
trade.
Godwin and Johnson. He loses a first, second, and Collins. That's not. That doesn't look so great in hindsight, does it?
For Austin,
For Austin, I mean, Collins is having a good year.
the funny thing is, I remember at the time people were saying that Todd got the short end of the stick, and it actually looks pretty decent for him right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wilson, Collins, a second, third. I mean, yeah, I do remember that now. I feel like it was mostly because you were losing the first, and then you also felt like Deontay Johnson was kind of a first, right? And I still kind of feel like he is. Maybe not. Nobody would trade him for a first right now, but still, gotta hype my own assets. But
We're working with future information.
yeah, still gotta feel pretty good as Kyle, huh? Two firsts, lose Godwin, Wilson.
Oh, Kyle easily wins this trade. He,
Yeah,
he gets exactly what he wants out of it. First, gets rid of older players.
yeah. Right now, he's probably rooting for my demise, trying to get that 25 first as high as possible. I don't know.
I
What do you
don't
think of
think
Deontay Johnson? So he had the injury. Um, he, I don't know, is Pickett
he's had
really
the
the
injury.
future? He had a better game last game, 2 touchdowns. Do you think there's something there, or do you think that they're gonna have to move on?
Deontay Johnson had 2 touchdowns last game.
No, 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 no. Pickett.
Pickett.
Yeah.
Oh, well, to me, Deontay Johnson is a fantastic wide receiver. He's a guy that gets open, and when he's healthy this year, he's gonna be a wide receiver 2 type.
Yeah, it's still
And
frustrating though if you have Pickett who can't
right,
necessarily.
the offense is a little anemic, so always sucks when the offense as a whole is kind of sucking. But maybe Deontay comes back and smooth things out.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the running back situation there is pretty bad too, so not a great
As a
offense
result of
overall.
the offense. Yeah.
Is this the first of like three AJ Brown trades or what?
I
This
think
So,
is
so.
one of the later ones.
so we had the Elijah or AJ Brown for like a bunch of firsts. No, what was that? Like a first in like 3 seconds or something? That was the original AJ Brown trade. How many
Yeah,
times has AJ
I
Brown
think
been
so.
traded?
I don't know. No one loves the man.
Yeah, what the heck? Nobody wants to trade
He
me, AJ Brown.
he would have a happy home on my roster, but no one wants to give him to me.
Should
Let's see
ask
what's
Austin
going
about it.
on. AJ Brown drafted by Austin, traded by Austin. AJ Brown and Mac Jones for Kyler Murray. Oh yeah. And then you get AJ Brown, Sam, for a first, second, 2 seconds, and a third.
Hmm.
Nice deal. And then he immediately goes to Zach,
Hmm.
and then he goes to Austin again. Okay, full circle.
How do we feel about so? What do you guys think about DJ Moore and Travis Etienne for AJ Brown in a third?
I mean, right now it's looking like DJ Moore is garbage.
Okay, he's just
Yeah,
on a tough offense,
yeah,
but
but it's
I
either in a
mean,
tough offense
look,
this year. Next year you're gonna get a rookie quarterback.
at the time of the trade, it looks like good value. But right now, you're a contender, and you're probably really not wanting to start DJ Moore.
I'm
Etienne
So
not
looks
starting him
nice.
currently. So,
exactly. So
but I did
it
get Travis Etienne, and
yeah,
Etienne is in my
Travis
starting.
Etienne's a starter, and he's having I don't- without looking at the numbers, I'd say a top 10 running back season. So I
I believe it
think
is. I believe it
I think
is.
from a contending standpoint, you're probably just okay with the trade.
Yeah, I mean, I
Top
think DJ
13.
Moore has the talent to like rebound if they get a different quarterback next season, or if like God willing,
Yeah, things
this
can always
season
change.
turns around at all. Like he's the type of wide receiver that you would want on with a good quarterback, or even like a mediocre quarterback.
He's never
I
had a good
think
quarterback, has he?
here's what
So
I'll say. When the trade was made, I would have said it was like very fair, and in the future we can project whatever we want. But for now, I would say I would rather have the AJ Brown side of the deal just because DJ Moore seems unstartable.
Mhm.
But in the future, you could easily have DJ Moore being startable, and you'd much rather have the ETN Moore side of the trade. So that's just how trades go, right?
Yep.
Right now, one way, in the future, another. But you're
okay.
definitely happy to have ETN.
I don't think I want to talk about every single trade because there's so many. Do you
Let's
guys
talk
want
about
to?
the interesting ones.
Yeah, let's
We
look
can skip
through.
over.
Let's
We
stay
can
like
skip over
everybody
like
pick an
who.
interesting trade, basically. I'll scroll through and you pick one that we do want to
I'm
talk
not
about.
too interested in these like defensive for a third trades.
Yeah,
Like that. This is just people in our league picking up depth,
Yep.
or
Me picking up cornerback or like DB depth
I'd say
essentially,
the
or DB
first for
starters.
Bajent is an interesting trade here. But I guess that's
I mean, Wandale for BR, dude. Wandale is a premier wide receiver in this league. Anyways, um,
I do think there's a little bit of meat on the bone to talk about the Ramondre Stevenson Michael Pittman swap, more or less, where it's like we swapped Luvu and Quincy back to one another, and then traded Pittman Ramondre,
I agree. That's an
and
interesting one.
that's definitely an interesting one where it's like, yeah, I think it gave Austin the running back depth and it gave me the wide receiver depth, but it's also interesting to talk about just in terms of start of the season and like how do you guys feel like that trade is going 3 weeks into the season, I guess.
I think uh, you're probably more excited about Luvu than Williams because he's getting like a sack every week, and Pittman and Stevenson are probably similar tiers. So I'm gonna call those a wash. So you're probably happy to have Luvu in this trade.
that is kind of the framework that I operate a trade in. Is like I saw Stevenson and Pittman as kind of like interchangeable, and like I think Pittman's value has actually gone up since this trade, where he was kind of
It
like
has gone up
yeah,
It's helpful to
because
have AR having a good
AR is
year.
actually a quarterback.
Yeah.
yeah. So if anything, the trade value has gone up, and then like yeah, I personally just wanted Luvu more just because those plus plays. But Quincy Williams is definitely a good linebacker. Like the game against the Bills, like Quincy outscored Luvu, and I was like, oh shit, is this gonna be like a bad trade in hindsight? But it's working out.
And Pittman's getting targeted pretty heavily here. It's looking pretty good.
Yeah, we'll see how this one goes. I mean, a lot of tackles this year.
The real
Definitely
question
getting
is,
all the
would you rather
snaps.
have Pittman or Jalen Hurts, though?
Adding insult to injury there.
All right, I want to talk about Love Ridley. Let's see.
Is that the
Paul,
next interesting one?
I think that's the next interesting one. I'm just
All
kind of
right.
scrolling through and seeing what other interesting one. Oh,
I think there's
I
been a
think
lot of interesting ones since that one.
yeah, Zeke is always fun to talk about since he's been passed around a lot. So, yeah, let's just talk about that real quick, I guess.
So talk
I'm
about the
just happy
love
to get
trade.
Love, but
Yep.
yeah, and Deontay's there, of course. I don't really have too much to talk about. I just
Let's hear Sam's take. Paul and I had quite a bit to say about this weekend backpacking. I'd love
I
to
think
hear Sam's take.
Austin like perfectly unloaded his quarterbacks at the time that he needed. Like he literally had like an embarrassment of quarterbacks where it's like he had Love, he had Howell, he had uh
I'm not sure if I'd call. I mean, I'd call Howell an
well
embarrassment. I'm not sure.
at the time of the trade we didn't know how good Howell
I
was going to be.
mean,
So
we
I
kind
think
of
I
do.
let me make my point before you just like chime in on the Howell sucks because I believe that Howell sucks. But I'm saying that he did a good job of like offloading his quarterbacks at the right time, where he got good value out of Love. Granted, Love is looking really good to start the season, and he's looking like a top, competent quarterback. So that trade, like, might be an interesting one to look at in hindsight in terms of like how good Love gets, and then how like unfortunately has kind of taken a dip since the trade, and like since he's gotten onto the field a little bit more. But I would say overall it was a good timing
I'm
trade
just
on
not sure if
Austin's
I
part.
argue that. I mean, I think having that third QB is pretty valuable. And what you're talking Garoppolo, you're relying on, especially with AR,
I
having
think
injury
Garoppolo's
issues.
fine as a third
I
QB.
think he's fine as the third QB, but you are.
So I think that Austin did do a good job of offloading his quote unquote additional assets. But it so in the Howell trade, good value for Austin. I think I agree with Paul here in saying that offloading Love to Paul at this price, it could really backfire on Austin in the long term. Love honestly does look pretty decent this year. Rushing upside, winning football games, like decent scoring offense. This is a quarterback that could easily hit like 6 to 7K in value if he keeps doing this for the entire year.
That's what I
Um,
was trying to say is like in hindsight, it might be a really interesting one to look at in that like that's a big value switch where
yeah,
it's like Ridley is maybe good for this season, maybe next season, and that fourth is like negligible. And you get Love and Deontay Johnson, who's like potentially the wide receiver one on the Steelers if he comes back healthy. So like that is a big value output on Austin's side.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I really hate this on Austin's side. Obviously, I'm
At the time of the
biased.
trade, I thought it was pretty decent for Austin, but now I really think it's good on Paul's
I
side.
just thought, I just don't understand. I was really happy to see this trade happen, to see this trade come in. It originally came in as Love plus, who's the running back that just got traded to the Vikings from the Rams?
Matheson? No,
Akers.
Akers.
Akers. It
Akers.
was Love and Akers. I didn't want Akers. But even really just seeing Love come in made me really happy because of how hard it is to trade for a QB in this league. Now I know that Austin has extra QBs, right? But trading for young QBs that have the potential to increase their value is extremely difficult in this league, and it's extremely difficult to trade for QBs, period.
Mm-hmm.
Even even older QBs can be difficult because it's hard to replace them. I know that it's the third QB, but I think he could have maybe got more value out of Jordan
Well, the
Love.
thing is, he traded Love at a time where I don't think people were projecting Love to be a decent starter in this league. But now, through 3 weeks, we can see that he has that potential to be a decent starter in this league.
I'm just not sure
So,
about that because you're talking about off season where he was getting some level of
but we've
interest.
seen him play before.
Yeah, but we saw this was after week 1, so you did see him throw 3 touchdowns.
I
But it was
think
against the Bears.
people were still questioning Love at that point. I don't think people are questioning him to that same extent anymore, and that's why it's very heavily on the Love side right now.
It's not. I mean, you also have to say Ridley had question marks for a variety of reasons. You're
But obviously, he does have question marks. But Ridley has shown to be an elite receiver before. I think it's easier to say he used to be an elite receiver. Oh, he just had an elite week. He can be elite in general again.
Paul, I agree with you in that I think rather than trading Love, I think if this had been Garoppolo, granted, I don't know if he could have gotten Ridley with Garoppolo,
I don't think
but
Paul would accept
yeah,
that.
but like that would be the trade that you would feel more comfortable doing, where it's like you would give up an old veteran quarterback rather than giving up someone who has a lot of potential to like take off in terms of like value
yeah,
gain.
I'm not
Yeah.
against trading Love. I'm just I just think you could get a lot more than a guy like Ridley, who I like. I traded for him recently, right? I like the guy. I've traded for him twice, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to keep track with Ridley. Um, but it it just felt light, and I was just happy to see it come in. That's all.
Yeah.
Question. Okay. Um, if this trade instead of Love is Pickett, let's say it's Deontay Johnson Pickett for Ridley, and Pickett just came off of a 3 touchdown week 1. How are we feeling about this trade after Pickett just had 2 mediocre weeks in a row after that? Because I viewed Pickett and Love as very similar assets coming into the season.
I guess
I did too.
the difference between Pickett and Love for me was that I have a more solid opinion on Pickett. We haven't seen that much of Love. I know, Alec, you said we've seen him play, but we've only seen him play very little. We've seen Pickett play for nearly a full season. So to me, Love was a risky asset, and Ridley was a risky asset. There was a lot of upside and a lot of downside. However, the upside for QBs is sky high, whereas the upside for a 29-year-old receiver like Ridley is going to be
Which is
limited.
production.
Yeah, you get production for a few years, and I don't think his last 2 weeks are indicative of the rest of the season. I think he's going to be very productive,
Yeah.
but
I think he's going to be good.
you're you're limited to a Diggs level evaluation, right? You're not going to
But
get more than that.
you don't need value always is the thing. When you're competing, you're not always looking for the value.
Yeah, it's
You're looking
true.
for you're looking for the production a lot of the time. So I I did not. There was a lot of people at the time of the trade saying they didn't like the trade, but I understood the trade at the time on Austin's end.
And it certainly looked better when it happened than it does now. But I didn't
Alec,
like it then. I don't like it now. But I'm happy to be on my side, obviously.
So
I think you make a good point also in that like at the time of the trade, I very much valued Jordan Love in the same tier as like Purdy, Pickett, where it's like
yeah,
those are
these
guys, yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, and like that was the range that I thought Love in. And granted, he has taken kind of like he's probably gone up maybe a tier or 2 tiers since then above them, but yeah, it's just an interesting one where it's like when you look at it where it's like Pickett and Purdy were in that same level or like same conversation when this trade happened and they're no longer in the same conversation. So it's kind of we're taking the hindsight approach. I generally think that Paul you won this trade with like the 3 weeks that
Well,
we've had.
obviously he's won
Yeah.
this trade at this point.
Yeah. So
And you know what? I would even say Howell is on the very, very low end of that tier, like very low end.
mhm.
And he hasn't come up. He's probably about the same as he was before. So it's just QBs are extremely volatile at this kind of stage in their career. They can move around quite a bit.
Mhm.
So we'll give this one a Paul for now,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
and in the future probably.
yeah,
All right.
probably, but it's just I wanted to more look at it as of week one, not as of now necessarily. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
As we look at the next trade, I feel like this is an instance of Austin getting good value out of a trade where it's like how, and granted, again, we're looking at hindsight where it's like how I think if you're going to trade like Love versus Howell, obviously you want Love rather than Howell. And I think everyone probably could have seen that like at the time of the trade as well. And then Javante was pretty like, I don't know. I've never been a big fan of Javante. I've like, yeah, but getting Tony Pollard back is huge for Austin. He's had a really nice start to the season, and he's going to be productive. And he's already produced heavily in the weeks that he's had him.
I gotta
So
say, this trade makes no sense for me for Mike.
mhm.
Why would you trade for like you're trying to get a QB, right? But why are you trusting like he's wants to compete this year, right? He wants to make the playoffs, is my understanding. Why are you trusting Howell for this?
Well, he needed a QB. Rodgers went down.
Yeah, but there's Kirk Cousins right there with a tanking team.
I don't think Jack was tanking at that time, or at least publicly tanking.
He must have, I mean, you at least inquire. There's no way that Jack isn't looking at
Or you can go
trading
for like
assets.
Baker Mayfield for like a much discounted price. Like you know that Kyle is like selling away all of his assets. Like at the time that this trade happened, I think you can kind of give it like two schools of thought where it's like either you go for a veteran quarterback like Mayfield, like Kirk Cousins, kind of these like I mean, granted, Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield are in completely different tiers. Like Mayfield's kind of like the hold your nose quarterback, and granted, he's like started the season nicely, but he was one where it's like if you want a productive quarterback for cheap, Baker Mayfield is probably the guy you target, right? Or am I wrong in thinking so?
I mean,
I
I
mean,
think
it's definitely a quarterback to go after.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily hate going after Howell. He's a starting quarterback that looked decent in terms of fantasy production the first 2 weeks. Um, I don't think it's an awful trade for Mike.
was this even
It,
after this trade was after week one, wasn't it?
week one. It was after week one.
You know,
So,
you see
you
one
know,
week of production, you're
I think
trusting Howell.
I don't know if I'm trusting Howell.
You could get just a lot more out of Pollard, don't you think?
Also, Pollard is not that young. So you are at the very least trading
He's not that old either.
old. He's
He's
like on
20.
the way to
He's
27.
27, right? Like,
27 is old, bro.
or is he 26?
He's 26, but he's almost 27, I think. Anyway,
I don't know. There's a lot of contenders this year,
if
right?
you are a playoff contender, you want the production of Pollard this year. So I'll agree with that point. But in terms of obtaining value, it makes sense.
I mean, you don't
It's
have your first round pick this year. You want to finish as high as possible and hopefully make the playoffs.
I'm not saying all of the moves make sense together. I'm
Yeah,
just saying if you're just looking at the value, that it's okay.
maybe, and maybe Javante turns it around.
Javante actually is quite talented. He's in an offense that
The
isn't
offense is,
performing that well right now.
yeah, and you're trying to
So,
compete this
but
year, so
so
it's
he's
like
a young running
Javante.
back. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the decision making is there, but it's close enough to me that it's a move that you can make. It's not a move that you should make as a contender, I don't think. But you could also say as a contender, why are you trading away, say, Keenan Allen in my situation? If he's primed for a
Well,
good
you
year.
have the ability to retool, right? Like you can make the playoffs even if you're trading away Keenan Allen. Also, Keenan Allen had more question marks coming into the season.
True. I'm just
You have the
saying.
luxury of having other valuable pieces on your team in a way that
Yeah.
Mike doesn't. Mike has to be quite smart about how he's going to position his team if he's going to try to make the playoffs this year, is what I am coming at.
Yeah. I mean, Pollard's a guy that you want on a competing roster.
Yeah,
And
wouldn't you consider Pollard probably his
Pollard's
best
top 5.
asset? I don't think he has. Does he have anything? I'm not
He's
sure.
got like Mike Evans doing pretty well this year.
Do you really consider Mike Evan? Wait.
I don't consider him a premier asset, but he's a top receiver this year so far.
Yeah, I'm just talking. What's the top asset that Mike owns?
The best asset that Mike owns is his 25 first. No, sorry. um, um, sorry, Sam.
It's his birthday.
Oh,
Give him a
okay.
break.
James
Happy
Cook.
birthday, Mike.
James Cook.
James Cook's developing pretty nice for him. We were
Yeah.
shitting on James Cook all off season and last year, and here he is doing pretty well.
Doing very well. So, all right. Is it his birthday today?
No, it's tomorrow.
Oh, then we're okay.
Oh,
Happy
yeah,
birthday, Mike. Um,
All
let's see.
right, next one. London in the AJ Brown trade. Another AJ Brown trade.
Oh my God, I'm sick of the AJ Brown trades.
Yeah.
But yes, so London and 2 firsts for AJ Brown and White. You're looking at this, and honestly, so this was right after London put up 0 points week 1, right?
Yes.
It's kind of a panic sell. It's looking like where it's like he needs the production, and London is obviously one where it's like he's not productive right now, but he is someone who holds a lot of value. So it's like,
I mean, hell, everything
I don't
Austin
hate
has
it.
done this year so far is just buying production, and it's not a bad idea.
yeah,
I honestly like this trade for both sides. I mean, AJ Brown's a beast. I don't understand why he keeps getting traded, but he is a monster. It's great for Austin
because
to
he
get
holds
him.
a lot of value. You can get a
So
lot of value with the AJ Brown trade. I
AJ
think is
Brown's
kind
been
of what we're
just,
seeing.
getting traded for tons of value every trade, I guess. And
Yeah, he is.
he should be the most valuable asset in the league by now, I guess. But no, I
Either
like this for
everyone
both
wants him or
sides.
nobody wants him.
Yeah, I really like. I mean, I think Zach's very happy about this trade as well. But I think Austin's not going to be looking at this trade and grimacing anytime in the future. This could win him the league right here, this trade.
Mhm.
All right, anything else? Not really, right? Max
You
Crosby.
getting Daniil Hunter for a fifth and a second? That makes me feel sad because I'm just
I
looking
think
for a D lineman.
that's fair value.
Yeah,
You're not
No,
gonna,
I think it's fair value. It's just I'm sad that I didn't make that trade because I needed D lineman really, really bad.
dude. I was trying to get Daniil Hunter for 2/3 all of last year, so
I was trying to get Daniil for a third this year, and then he had like a couple blow up games, and I said, "Fuck it, here's your second." I know, so I'm happy to have him. I needed the linebacker, obviously the edge. Needed more edges after losing Bosa, so it's good for me. I'm glad, but I think
he's
also,
an elite guy. He's good.
yeah, I think also like it's good for Zach. I think Zach's been doing very well acquiring assets. I still do feel like he could make a push. I mean, he has Lawrence uh, and Lamar. I mean,
He could, but after all the moves he's made, it almost doesn't make sense that he goes for it. Just because off the top of my head, he's traded Daniil Hunter now. He's
it could make
traded
AJ
Fred
Brown.
Warner. He's traded AJ Brown. He's making a lot of moves for value rather than production.
yeah, but that can come right back. You know, you take all that value, you can trade it right away.
You value, aka picks, are basically currency, and you can always buy production.
Yeah.
So
So look, so he's 2-1, right? He's got some good bones to his team, and really what I mean by that is 2 QBs because that's hard enough to get in this league, isn't it? And if he wins a couple games here, say a couple people lose a few games and decide maybe they want to tank or maybe they want to sell a little bit, it could be really easy to buy up some assets
Yep.
mid-season and become a legit team, sneak into the playoffs. You could even position yourself well for the future if you buy assets that aren't so old. So I don't
Mm.
hate it. I mean, let's see what we got. It's
So
three
many picks.
firsts, 5 seconds. You know what? He could trade all the seconds to me. You know, I love me some seconds. So 2 seconds.
here's an interesting thing though. So let's say this situation it plays out right, and he wins a few more games, and he wants to trade for the assets. Who out of these bottom tier teams, who can you buy
Well, it would
if you're
require
Zach?
It would require some people falling a little, right? Like
But
say,
are the people falling gonna sell and give up? Like the people falling don't have their firsts. Like people aren't gonna sell shit if they don't have their first.
That was my thought process too. Is it's like I think the bottom or like
Unless it's a really
Kyle
good value.
offloaded a ton of his players this season already, and I just don't like. I don't know. It's
I'm not
like
sure if
who's he
it's as
going to trade
difficult.
for?
I'm not sure if it's as difficult as you guys are saying, because I've traded players that should help me compete for value. Alex done it. I think it's possible to see Shane do it. It's possible to see Zach do it. Uh, but because it's not, it's going to be like more retooling, right? I don't think people are going to be selling to tank completely, but I think people are going to be looking for the
I
future.
just mean to say people aren't selling their premier assets usually.
Yeah, but you can get nice deals along the edges, especially with the types of picks he has, and still set yourself up for the future while still trying to get into the playoffs this year. I'm not saying that he's going to do it. I'm saying it is an option.
It is an option certainly.
I think it's an
And
option that
if
doesn't
you
kill your
offer
team.
enough, sometimes you just can't say no.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to buy QBs. That's the biggest thing. If you don't have to buy QBs, it makes it a lot easier. You buy
Yeah.
older assets, you buy some mid-tier assets, you buy some assets that maybe are a little depressed. Like you can do it. If you're smart about it, you can have some interesting buys here.
You know, I'm starting to become fearful of this man. It's time to trade barrier him.
I mean, it kind of feels like, to me, it just feels like Sam's team, Cerruti, right? Like, I don't know why we lost the other Sam, so I don't have to specify anymore.
Well, yeah, Sam had all the picks in the world last year, and then he
Yeah,
decided he wanted to compete. He bought who he wanted.
yeah, exactly. Should we look at the
But
draft?
yeah, let's look at the draft.
This is a terrible podcast. We're at 51 minutes. This is so bad. All
It's
right.
honestly hard to say what we even talked about.
Yeah, we've just let's look at the draft. Why not? I was hoping to get Jack on, but let's see.
No response.
No, he's responded, but
He's
he
busy.
he said, "Are you doing it now?" I said, "Yep," and he hasn't said anything. I'll tell him we're on Discord. There's definitely no one who's going to make it to this. We've said this multiple times, but I'm certain about it this time. All right. Let's. Should we redraft? I don't know. No, that sounds like a very long episode then.
No,
I
Uh,
think
I
we can
guess
do it
just
quick. I think we can do it
Bij-
quick. Okay, no. Everyone gets one pick, and you just go. Okay, pick one. I'll go. Bijan. Like it's easy, right? Bijan is Bijan.
yeah, good pick. AR,
Still,
great.
I think, still AR.
Yep.
I think I go Stroud over Young.
At this point,
You think so?
Yeah.
I I don't know. Young has looked good to me, and the injury is what I think is mostly dictating that to you.
Well, they both have shit lines, let's be honest. And Stroud has looked better with the shit line. So if we're going like way too early predictions, like I believe in Bryce Young. This is not me saying I'm going to sell Bryce Young away tomorrow. It's
Sure.
me just saying that like based off of our 3 week impression, Stroud has had a better 3 weeks than Bryce Young has. They have similar lines. They have similar shitty wide receivers, and Stroud has done more with it than Bryce Young. Granted, I still like Bryce Young, but for the like purpose of this exercise, I would
Sure.
probably say Stroud above Young.
All right. Well, we're obviously going Young with the next pick then. He maybe hasn't been everything that you wanted, but I don't think he's looked bad in any regard.
and there's
Yeah.
nobody you can really put above him. There's nobody who's shown out so much that you have to
Yeah.
draft him
Yeah.
above Young.
All right. This pick,
Gibbs.
Gibbs.
Gibbs is
Let's
still
keep it at
Gibbs.
Gibbs is
Yeah.
Gibbs. He's had a decent start to the year, and
He's
he's going
looked
to look
nice to
good.
me. I've watched some Lions game due to being a golf owner, and Gibbs looks legit.
Mm-hmm.
JSN,
I think I'm still comfortable putting JSN there.
I think I'm comfortable putting him there, but I'm definitely moving up Flowers. And with the next pick, I'll definitely be taking Flowers. Flowers is like he's Lamar's guy, and he's looked good.
he's Lamar's
I
guy.
think
He's looked good. Great route running. Good.
nice pick at 11 for Paul there.
Yeah, that
So
really
Flowers moves all the way up to 6 or 7 here for me.
6 or 7. You
Yeah,
probably put Addison right after him, right?
Yeah.
he's still Addison, and
Yeah.
then we can kind of
We can drop Levis somewhere.
we can drop Levis off in the dumpster.
QJ.
Yeah,
I think
maybe we don't go through this whole thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah. We can do
from
the.
this
Let's
point
talk
on,
the first round, and then we can kind of pick and choose.
yeah, I'd still rather have Addison over QJ. QJ might
Yes.
get his shot here now that Mike Will is going to be out for the season, so maybe we'll get to see what QJ is all about.
Do you pick
But for now,
QJ
it's Addison.
or Puka?
Oh man, that's a crazy question because Puka's not even drafted. Um, but Puka's, I believe, on Q Trade cut higher value than QJ.
yeah.
Yeah,
I still, let's say for the purpose of this exercise, I am gonna keep QJ there
I'm
just
still
because
taking
we
QJ
haven't seen it from him. So
draft cap, baby.
yeah.
I'll take Puka over QJ.
Really,
Yeah, you look at those
Paul
3 weeks,
likes that production, baby. Paul doesn't give a fuck about where you were drafted. Give me that production.
production. But I'm still putting.
Would you take Puka over JSN in
Yeah,
that
that's a good
sense?
question.
No, I wouldn't take Puka over Zay
Really?
Flowers. So
But would you take Zay Flowers or JSN, Paul?
Zay Flowers.
Mm.
Okay. I'm inclined to agree, even though I do really still believe in JSN. By the way,
I got to
hit
say,
me
I
up,
did
Sam.
consider putting
By
in
the
an
way, hit
offer.
me up, Sam.
I did put an offer. I was considering putting an offer for JSN for Zay Flowers, but I decided not to. So
Sam,
that's
you could be
yeah.
the proud owner of my 26 first. Um, no one wants to be the proud owner except Adcock.
Does Will Anderson? Well, Will Anderson probably
I think he belongs
drops
there.
one or
Will
two
Anderson's still
places
where he
here,
should be.
but I think he's right about where he
As
should be.
the DLs are.
Well, I'm only saying he's dropping because I'm putting Puka above him.
Oh,
Wait,
he's
we're
still.
putting Puka ahead of like Sam Laporta and like all these
I
other
mean,
guys
dude,
behind.
I'd
I
rather
would
have
definitely
Will
put Puka
Anderson
over.
over. I'd rather have Will Anderson over QJ right now.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You really think so? Yeah, that's actually probably reasonable. I'd say, look,
Dude,
we're
it's
dropping.
so. We're talking about two positions where
Yeah,
it takes years to develop and see what the fuck happens. Like, dude, I
no,
don't
I,
know.
I agree. Will Anderson should be where he is. Campbell maybe drops a point or two, but you're basically putting Flowers ahead of Will Anderson. I put Puka ahead of Will Anderson,
Let's just
maybe
talk
QJ
about the
behind.
fallers and the risers. Flower is obviously a big riser. Campbell maybe a faller.
But
Kincaid
slightly. I don't mind.
slightly.
Yeah.
Kincaid slight faller.
Laporta
Ming
probably hops up to
I think Laporta
2.1, 1.
Laporta should be where Kincaid is at
Yeah,
this point.
agreed.
Um,
Rice has looked good. We questioned this pick. I think it was a lot of
I think
people's
I think
overdrafted.
that's right about where it should be.
Yeah, and this was overdrafted, so good
Hmm.
pick. Let's see. So A chain.
Kendre's
Wait.
fine.
What about? Okay, does A chain get ahead? So I'd say A chains might be
HN goes
right
to
at
like
the
the 11 or 12
112,
to me.
right? Yeah.
Goes to like 11 or 12 for me.
So you're putting A chain. I think A chain and Puka are the ones that go into the first round. Laporta goes into 2.1. You drop Levis. Johnston probably goes 2-2 or something,
Um,
which is kind of crazy, but
Man, I wish we had a better way of judging DL talent because Jalen Carter is the real deal. But
Yeah, he does look very
it's
good.
probably still overdrafted.
yeah,
Just
Jalen
because
Carter is definitely overdrafted.
you just can't
Unfortunately,
you can't get counting stats from that position very easily.
yeah, you have to be. I mean, yeah,
You
it's
literally have to be Aaron Donald,
yep.
or it's not worth having a
And
DL
What about
most of the time.
Quinnen Williams?
Isn't he edge still though?
No, he's DT, like straight up.
Damn.
yeah, I mean, but Quinnen Williams, let's see, like he scores points for sure.
Okay,
It's
look
not
at
that
last season.
much.
Last season's a better
200.
indicator.
I mean, like 238 points is like
How many sacks did he had? 12 sacks.
he had 12 sacks, but he's still only scoring 238
Yeah, so I
points.
mean, he
It's
had
like
12 sacks. Like, who knows if he'll have another 12 sack year ever again? It's just you
yeah.
don't know with these guys.
I'm not like I wouldn't be ultra excited about this, necessarily.
D interior lineman sacks are very random unless you're literally Donald.
Yeah.
Not. I'm not trying to shun Quinnen Williams.
I'm
He's
just not sure
very
about
good.
the fantasy production. Like I'm saying, I think he's like a good depth piece. I think he's maybe a good as your
I
third.
think he's good as your third, good as a depth piece.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
Is he your
we'll
second?
agree to disagree on that. But
I mean, it's just
But
rough to expect
he's
12
certainly
sacks
not
from
like
a
he's not your
interior
DL one.
guy.
no, he's not my DL1. I wasn't expecting him to be that. But like, I would say 258 is good
Two,
production out of
I think two.
any player on the team.
It absolutely is, but I don't think. Well, we'll just agree to
238.
disagree. I'm never gonna be big on an interior guy.
It's decent scoring, but what is? I mean, like, let's see. I'm curious. Um,
You just get a lot more double teams on the interior. That's why I have a lot of trouble ever relying on an interior guy. So, all the more impressive if you can get 12 sacks.
so you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Cam
7, 8,
Hayward is
9, 10,
technically
11,
a DT as
12,
well. You want
He
to take
is.
Cam Hayward's
13,
top season?
14. So you're
Yeah.
talking about 14th best scoring.
These guys are definitely capable. I don't trust them.
Okay.
It
Then
is
I think
it is just hard to
you're missing out on points. Where it's like you're missing out on
what the
like
14th best. Like this guy's career season for sacks. Like you really think he's going to get 12 sacks again?
no. What I'm saying is that Cam Hayward is also a DT. Would you say that Cam Hayward had a bad season last year?
Oh, he didn't. I just don't think it's reliable.
Like if you can expect Cam
Cam.
Hayward, or
Casey Hayward,
It was
or is it Cam Hayward?
it's Cameron Hayward with a
Cameron Hayward?
E instead of an A.
Okay, so look, this is what it is, right? So he's had a couple good seasons here. 10 and a half, 10 for sure.
Yeah. So if you can get a player that like scores at that level for 10 season, that's great. Like it's good to have
But look at his last 10 seasons, 247, and
No,
then he
you
has a down year, up year, down year, up year. It's you can rely on them for a single season sometimes. Sometimes they have good seasons. I'm just saying from a general standpoint, I would rather have an edge rusher than an interior guy. That's my only
Yeah,
point.
I mean, I
that's
fully agree.
not
I mean, look at the guys. Look, 1, 2, edge, 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 edge.
Paul.
The
Would you rather put Riddick
interior.
in your lineup or Keenan Williams last season?
Yeah, but this is Ken Williams this season, right? Like we're talking, right?
But
So
he's still outproducing Reddick currently.
yeah, but Reddick outproduced him last season.
Okay.
So like
But as of right now, would you rather Keenan Williams this season?
I mean, this is a whole
Hassan
nother
Reddick this
conversation.
season?
Sam, we're not talking about whether there's value in defensive tackles. Like there is value. I have
Yeah.
started defensive tackles in the past. I'm just saying that you do have to accept more season to season variance. You do have to accept like it's gonna be much more difficult to get to that top 10 kind of production compared to edge rushers. That's why Bosa and Parsons are going to be more valuable than Quentin
All
Williams.
I'm really saying is that there aren't elite DTs other than Donald, whereas there's a lot of elite edge. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like I don't dislike
Chris
DTs
Jones
at
is
all.
also a DT as well.
Yeah,
If
but
we
look,
want, like,
251,
But do we
153,
call him elite in
159,
fantasy?
167. Like he had one good season. Like this guy's getting 9 sacks and still only scoring 153 points, like maybe 11 points per game. You know, like he had the spike season. It's not like he's got two 15.5 sack seasons with scoring that you'd consider, acceptable for a starting defensive tackle on a contending team.
You can definitely start DTs. I
Yeah.
just don't.
I think they make good like DL2, DL3 range guys if they're really good. Like
I
that.
think that's a fine statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you don't want your DL1 to be a DT unless he's
No, I
literally
don't think that's like
It's just more difficult, and especially when you're drafting them, it's just more difficult to project points out of them, right? Like you're talking about Jalen Carter having a really good start to the year,
like
but is
he's been a monster, and like what are his fantasy stats?
ugh,
Not great.
so he might develop into a more fantasy to having more fantasy stats. I mean, especially since I don't think
I
his
mean,
snap percentage is very
inconsistently.
high. I mean, look at the snaps he's getting. So if he gets, once he starts getting full snaps, 100% snaps, then
Yeah, maybe he does more. Maybe he
yeah,
does become an Aaron Donald type player,
good.
and then we'll look back and we'll say good pick.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyways,
Anyone else? Let's see. So A Chain's making that jump up. Kendra Miller, Sharbs, who knows? Roshan
Laporta
probably
up.
jumps up a little bit, 4 or 5 places, and that's about it, right?
Yeah, we'll agree with that.
Um, Anyone else that's jumping out to you guys?
Uh,
Downs.
Downs moves up a fuck ton,
Yeah, I mean, really
dude.
nice getting the targets. Hasn't, I mean, like, it's, I don't know, it's as good as you can expect, as you could want from a wide receiver in his rookie year, right? Especially 4.2. Jesus.
like to point out the guy who's at 4'11 having a better season than Downs.
Tank
Oh,
Dell makes a
Tank
big
Dell moves
jump,
up a lot.
big jump for sure. Um,
I think Mims moves up.
I think Dell's probably a second round pick now, huh? And
Mims 3.3.
Mims three
Good,
out three.
good,
There's been a
good pick.
lot of interesting wide receivers, hasn't
Good
there?
pick from Mike, I think.
Well, we'll see how that one goes. Did you know
There's
that Derek
there's some
Hall?
defensive guys out here that perform pretty well as well.
Yeah. Did you know that Derek Hall was a preemie? He was like 24 weeker or something. He was born at 24 weeks,
Interesting.
and he is
Didn't know that.
now 6'3" and 252 pounds. It's very
Why
rare.
do you know that?
Um, I don't know. I must have read it at some point, and
All
I think I read it after I drafted him. But then I told Joanna, and she was very interested in it. So
right, let's move on. Week 4
I,
predictions.
I think Brian Branch is also another one that
Brian
can jump
Branch,
up a lot.
I like
He
him.
had an insane like production on full snaps.
yeah, but this it's interesting though because he was playing nickel, right? And then he was able to get some safety snaps because of an injury. So I'm not sure if we're going to be continuing to see this sort of production out of
Yeah, but
him.
to get him in the 5th round, like,
That's
and
all
for
you
him to
need though. You
be,
just you
Yeah,
just need an injury to
my
happen and then
yeah,
well, yeah, I think but it's not for sure. I think
it's
Brian
not for
Branch, you're
sure.
looking good, but if he's continuing to play nickel corner, then I'm not sure if you're as excited about him as if he's actually going to be playing safety going forward. I'm not sure if this is a one-time thing because of injury mid-game that he was starting to get safety snaps, or
well, it's that
if
Kirby Joseph and Tracy
he's
Walker and CJ Gardner Johnson were all out. So yes, it was due to injuries, but I think the fact that he was that productive, like in that position, will lead the Lions to potentially start putting him in
I mean, it
more
doesn't
valuable
matter. We
snaps.
don't know if he was actually good or not, right? Like he could have just been mopping up tackles. I didn't watch the game, so I'd
I
have
think his
to
PFF
see.
grades came across really good. So I think
Maybe.
it is more than just like he was there to make tackles. Like I think he was making some meaningful plays, but
Maybe,
we'll
but
see.
and also, but I still don't like you're having a very different opinion on him if he's going to be a nickel corner versus if he's going to be a safety. And so that's really the biggest thing that I'm kind of wondering right now. So we'll see. I like Brian Branch. I wanted to draft him actually. I was hoping I could draft him
I
later
guess
in the
everyone wanted to
fifth.
draft him in the
Yeah.
fifth.
But I had to go with my preemie guy, even though I don't think I knew. So we'll see how Brian Branch does in the future. I'm curious as well. I was trying to trade for him actually, but
I think he's a fair candidate to say that he's like trending up though, given his performances so far.
but it's still a DB. Like maybe he goes up 5 points or something. I don't know. So that's my opinion. I don't really see like Witherspoon. Look at you getting some playing time. Although isn't what's his face coming back next week? I think. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in the safety situation there. Is he getting? Oh, he's cornerback. Is Devin Witherspoon going to be a cornerback or a safety
He's a
going
safety.
forward?
He's a safety.
Are you sure?
I thought he was a cornerback in college, but
It's kind of hard to know like who's going to become
Look at the
safeties.
depth chart. Okay, if you
This
look at the depth chart in Sleeper,
the depth chart it says I didn't see him on the
the FS is on the bottom and the SS is on
no,
the
yeah, I
top.
don't see
So
him on either of the. I think he's
so
must.
maybe he's listed as a corner.
I think he is
Yeah,
like
he's listed as
Nickelback.
the uh,
no nickelback.
nickelback.
Yeah, I mean nickelbacks can get a decent amount of tackles. I
Man,
think
DBs are so weird.
Julian Love's definitely playing safety right now. Okay, so Jamal Adams is coming back from injury. Julian Love is getting a lot of play right now. I'm not sure what's going to happen to those snaps with Jamal Adams back. And then I thought Diggs. I mean, who knows? It's kind of hard to tell sometimes, isn't it? Let's see. They're calling him a cornerback. Devin Witherspoon, number 5 overall selection. Gotta kind of hate that pick then, huh?
Man, I would hate to rely on a cornerback to get tackles. That's all I'm saying.
um, interesting. Well, if that's the case, then I would take Branch over Witherspoon at 3.5. But I don't know if I'd really take him more than
You know what is
late
actually
fourth.
interesting that I'm seeing that we haven't talked about is Tyjae Spears in the 3rd round by Adcock. He got 50% of the snaps last week, and it's been increasing.
So what's the story with Spears? What's his draft cap?
He, I believe, is a 3rd rounder.
3rd at 81. I mean, we're looking at.
He's the guy that has no ACL.
No shit.
that is his claim to fame.
But it's I haven't watched him play, so I can't really speak to how he looks. But
Does
it's
he have-
kind of crazy that he outsnapped Henry this week.
Does he have one ACL or no ACLs?
0 ACLs.
I think he's a no ACL type man.
Well, DeJuan Blair played like what 7 or 8 seasons without.
You're gonna bring him up.
So I mean, DeJuan Blair was looking pretty decent. So he played 20 to 26.
I don't know how long you can go on with no ACL.
Okay, so DeJuan Blair lasted age 20 to 24. It looks like playing less than 20 minutes a game max.
That just seems like you're grinding your bone down for those whole 4 years, then you just explode. So.
My understanding is the Blair situation was he, I guess, tore both of his ACLs or maybe never had them, and then his body just compensated somehow. I don't even know how that's possible. I wonder if that's the same situation. Two torn ACLs. Wow. And he has arthritis. Huh.
That guy is not lasting to 26.
That's wild. How did he get picked? Well, I guess it doesn't even matter if you get 4 years of production out of your running back and then you toss him away like trash. So whatever.
They probably don't have an ACL after 4 years most of the time, anyways.
Man. All right, let's do quick predictions. For all the guys who've lasted this long, please toss a donation and a like, subscribe.
We're all trying to quit our jobs and make this our full-time gig.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna need a lot of money from the 9 other people here. So, all right, Austin versus me.
This might be the most interesting matchup of the week. I haven't seen the other ones, but this is certainly interesting.
Yeah.
We got 2-1 Austin looking real hot for the first 3 weeks, but then Paul 1-2. Surprising.
It's kind of a prove-it game for Paul, where it's like
Paul
good
did
matchup.
score huge points last week, and it's a very capable roster. So
I'm going with me, and that's because I am going to be able to.
That's crazy, bro.
Well, look, last week I scored a ton of points, and I didn't get to start A-Chain. This week
and he's going to score 50 again.
I'm going to score a ton of points, and I'm going to get 50 points from A-Chain. So I think the math's indisputable. I'm scoring 390 points this week, so
All right. If we go just
270.
based off of let's look at maybe three things: top two players, offense, defense, and then overall depth. Okay. So Austin's top offensive player, Jefferson, versus Paul's top offensive player, Chase. I'm gonna give the slight edge to Jefferson, but I'm not I'm a big Chase believer, obviously.
If we're
Everyone
talking
should be.
matchups, then I really feel like it's just, this week, right? Then I would probably go ahead and call maybe Adams as more likely to be the top scorer on my team.
Yeah, I guess if we're going matchups, Adams against Chargers, that's gonna be a high scoring game. Um, and if we're just looking at top two wide receivers on both ends, that's gonna be top three really. Big bulk of the points on the offense there. Um, so how about who do you take? Jefferson, Brown, and Ridley, or Chase, Adams, and Samuel? Sam, what do you say?
Mm,
Looking at those matchups.
hold on. Flip it over to my phone. Like you said, slight edge to Jefferson, probably a slight edge to Adams, and then slight edge to Samuel. So Paul in that instance, yeah.
Interesting.
But Paul's wide receivers are also probably the strongest in the league, so we'd have to look elsewhere to kind of get a better sense of like the matchup in its totality.
I'm giving slight edge to Jefferson, big edge to Adams over Brown. I think LAC Las Vegas is going to be a well. Come to think of it, though, is Garoppolo going to play? That's a question. If Garoppolo plays, I think Adams is scoring big. And I'm going to give Ridley over Samuel here. I don't think Arizona, San Francisco is going to be competitive at all. So I'm going to give Austin the edge in wide receiver. Sorry, Paul.
That's okay. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. Let's go ahead and everybody just say if you're gonna who's gonna win, and let's keep track of it.
Sure. All right. Let's go through the whole roster then. Like, let's just scroll down real quick. Offense we've seen. Let's see defense. All right, I've got my pick.
All right, I'm going with me. All right, let's go.
My pick's Paul.
Paul, Alec, Sam.
I
I'm
got I
going
got to
me.
ride with the Ghost Riders and say Austin on this one.
Okay.
You would go with the new school.
Yeah, got to teach you old bucks a lesson.
All right, next matchup. Sam v Zach.
Sam.
That's
Well, you never know when Adcock's going to pull 350 points out of his pocket.
But he did lose Hunter, so
He did. No 40 points there. I think it's going to be a unanimous Sam.
yeah.
Sorry, Adcock.
Anything we
Should
want to
we
talk about in particular?
point out? Well, I feel like before we started the show, we were talking about like the impact players. So I think with like Kamara coming back, that'll be really interesting to see if he like gets eased back into production or if they just like run him back like full speed. So
Seems to me they should just be full speed.
Yeah, might as well run him to the ground, right?
How good will he be? That's the question.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
and
I'm
and
very
then
interested to see what Kamara's going to do. Just
Who's starting, Jameis or Carr, though?
I think it's Jameis.
I think it's Jameis.
I
Yeah.
think Carr needs a few more weeks. I will be interested to see what Kendra Miller does on his second week too. I mean, A-Chain had a
Good thing
nice
you bought a
second week.
quarterback, huh, Paul?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Another impact player is just linebacker health. I would be very curious to see if my linebackers are actually going to play, given that Luvu, Bolton, and Kendricks are all like questionable. So I'm a little concerned if all those guys go down and I have to start Ivan Pace and Kamu Hill and whoever the fuck else. So I would like my linebackers to be healthy.
Me too,
As
man. Me too.
so for Adcock, as someone that is calling himself somewhat of a rebuilder this year, based on my intel, I'm gonna call his impact players Lawrence and Kyron Williams. These are guys that so in the case of Lawrence has lost quote unquote keep trade cut value and hasn't had a great start to the season. So he kind of needs to turn it around. I think he
He's
could
also
turn it
had a
around.
lot of issues with his wide receivers, so like they've been dropping a lot of passes, right? So
Yeah, it hasn't necessarily been his fault, but um, he hasn't really had a great start to the season. And with Kyron Williams, if he has another productive week, people are going to start to believe that he can be a season long or more option.
I
So
really will have to see more yardage out of him and better yards per carry before I see
absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
Okay.
I think those are fair, like impact players.
Zach
Zach
v.
for
Shane.
Shane, another interesting
That's a
matchup.
good matchup. Yeah.
Is Waddle actually going to be back? Oh, fully practicing. Not limited at all. Still hasn't officially cleared.
This one's pretty 50-50, my opinion. I'm gonna give it to Zach though, because I think Shane, first 2 weeks didn't have great outputs. Last week he had insane output off the back of two really high scoring players. I'm not
Yeah.
expecting Mostert to get 50 points again. Henry isn't looking great. Mooney isn't looking great. To me, Zach is dealing with some injuries on defense, but overall, I think his roster feels better to me, consistency wise than Shane's. Definitely
I'm
going.
going Zach. Or I'm going Shane, maybe.
What are we going Shane for?
I'm just predicting a 30-point Henry rebound week. I don't know why.
Okay.
I am going to go with Zach on this one. And I feel like his impact players are Tua. Like if Tua just continues to be Tua and it stacks well with Waddle, like I feel like that's the connection. And they're also like drawing a tougher matchup here with the Bills. So I feel like those are two guys that I would definitely want. And then I feel like Devontae Smith is actually like silently having a very good season as like wide receiver 2 on that offense, where it's like
He's looking at the wide receiver 1.
yeah, he's looking pretty productive. So
My two, I'm going to give 2 players for Shane and Zach, but my 2 for Zach, Tua could very easily be a top 6 option after this year if he continues doing this the entire year, which I think he absolutely could. I I don't think anyone could ever buy Tua off of Zach because he's a
No way.
Dolphins fan.
No way.
But if he was purchasable, like he's not purchasable anymore. This guy, his value is going sky high in my opinion for this season. And then the other one is Jacobs. Jacobs is not having a great start to the season. He has 1 year left on his deal. Kinda sus. So you're kind of waiting to see what he can do or where he will go.
He also missed most of preseason, right? So
Maybe that has something to do with it.
maybe he'll be able to get up to speed.
Do we have any guys for Shane? I have at least one, Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, very curious to see how he bounces back.
Is Derrick Henry finally falling off?
a certain Patrick Mahomes. No,
I don't think anyone has anything to say about Patrick Mahomes other than
no, I'm kidding.
number one
Montez
SN
Sweat
Dynasty.
is a good one to look at because he's like boomer bust like most DLs, but like he had a couple weeks where he was scoring like 20 points, and then I think last week he scored like 4 points. So it's really going to matter like if his defensive line, like if Myles Garrett pops up for 40, Montez Sweat pops off for like 20 or 30, and Hubbard pops off for 20 or 30. Like that makes it a much more like
Man, if your whole DL plays like that, it's hard to
Yeah, you
lose.
just win. Right?
yeah.
Bynum's had a good year so far too.
Yeah.
So interesting to see how that goes. I'd say the most interesting player for me is Mostert. I mean, like, what happens? Is it going to be a continued,
I
bonkers
guess
year?
that is something to watch out for.
So,
I personally have made that out to be a one-off week, but maybe this Dolphins offense is just the best offense in the league, and
it's
HA
been
and
more than
Mostert,
just 1 week though. So
yeah,
we know he probably will get injured eventually, but last year he was healthy. So we'll see. 31-year-old Mostert just kicking ass. That's interesting.
he called himself the fastest player on the Dolphins earlier
I
today.
saw that, and I'm so interested to see an A-Chain, Mostert, Tyreek,
Tyreek, yeah.
and
Waddle.
Waddle.
Yeah.
All. What did
Dude,
Waddle run?
A-Chain was like he was a legit college runner, so
Yeah.
my money would be on A-Chain, I think, even though Tyreek is like fucking Tyreek. A-Chain is that dude is explosive.
I don't know if he ran the 40. All right. But A-Chain, yeah, he ran the 4.32. He was an actual college sprinter. That is something interesting about A-Chain is that he had kept his weight down during college um, because of the sprinting. So I'm wondering after a year or two in the NFL
Hmm.
if he bulks up enough. We'll see.
I'll give you a second for him.
Zach was surprised that I was asking for. Well, I put him on the trade block. I'll be honest, it was purely to see what Zach would offer me, and nobody. And Zach was surprised that would be asking for more than a first. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to be asking for more than a first.
Did Zach
So
offer you a first?
not officially. He just was like, oh, what are you looking for him? I'm like, an overpay,
I
obviously.
mean, I think I don't know. I might accept a first.
A late first, do you accept for A-Chain?
Not. It's hard to say late. Like if it's 8 through 6, I think I'm saying yes. If it's later than that, probably no. But who knows where people's picks are going to be?
I think also A-Chain fell like crazy in our draft. A-Chain was more of like a high second, even late first for a lot of drafts.
Yeah, he was. I don't think he was a first in our drafts. I think he should have been a mid to early first or a second.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Okay, so Mike. Oh no, sorry, you got that wrong. Mike v. Todd, much more interesting matchup.
well, Todd has to remain undefeated, so it's gonna be Todd.
Yeah. I'm a believer in Mike this week.
Can we look at their rosters, perhaps? All
Mac
right.
Jones. It's weird that they're projecting him for 12 points, isn't it?
Fields being projected for 17 points is a sick joke.
He's gonna come back, don't you worry. I think in this game, like as far I am curious.
Cutting out there.
Yeah,
What are you curious
random
about?
here.
yeah.
What are you curious about? You cut out.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I said Adam is one.
Thielen? Is that
Yeah,
right?
because he had a really productive.
You're still cutting out. Sam!
Oh no.
Well, yeah, Thielen is interesting. He's an old receiver, but he has had good production in the past. He's probably the number one guy in that offense.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
So
say. What's up,
I was
Sam?
just saying that
Still cutting out.
whatever.
I'm most interested to see Stroud for another week. I'm just, the more evidence you get that on these rookie quarterbacks, the more interested I am. I don't think I'll ever be able to get
That
Stroud or
would be
anything.
something if Stroud becomes I don't think it would be unexpected if he became a good NFL player. But if Nico Collins, who's also on Todd's roster, becomes a legit wide receiver week to week, that would be something.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest in that Houston team. I mean, Stroud just making everything look better right now, I think, and the new coaching staff is too. So I don't know.
Fun fact:
It's
I
curious.
offered Mike's 24 first for Brees Hall, and it was declined. So Todd's holding on to Brees Hall through all this sludge.
The Jets are just so bad.
True.
Sam, what's your pick?
I am going to take my dad. This one.
Happy birthday, Mike. All right. Birthday win.
Birthday weekend.
Kyle v. Alec.
I'm going Kyle.
Well,
Kyle's going for 350, bro.
do we even have impact players on Kyle's team?
Well, I'm very curious about what Funk does this week. Okay, not necessarily impact players, but like interesting
have a few
players.
interesting ones. Okay, I'm interested in what Ford can do. Does he literally still have him in the taxi squad?
What can Ford do for you?
You can only see taxi squad if you hit league and then click his name in the
Yeah,
standings.
he must.
He's going full tank, baby.
But it doesn't matter.
I know.
Yeah, okay. So my interest is how can Ford do this year, and if he has decent weeks, maybe Kyle can sell him for a decent asset, because I don't think Ford is the real deal. I don't think he'll ever be a starting running back in this league.
It's interesting that he's keeping him in the taxi because it's well within his rights, I would say. Um, and it's more beneficial for him to keep him in taxi because he doesn't want to win anyways. So
Yeah,
there's no reason
he
for him
doesn't
to
care.
bring him out.
I don't think it's like an illegal move for him to keep him there.
Yeah, there are leagues that allow people to poach from the taxi. You have to offer a pick, and they can either choose to
Yeah,
take him
well, in
out
this
of the
case,
taxi
he would easily put him on his bench
or put him.
or in his starting
Well,
spot.
what would it be? It'd be like this. It'd be like, oh, I want Ford. I offer a first. You either have to put him on your bench or you can take my first, you know?
Ah,
So
that's
it's
interesting.
a forced trade, essentially. So it's not something I'm planning on doing, or do I
So
care
I'm
that much
interested in
about, but yeah.
Ford. I'm interested in how Dotson can do. Otherwise, let's see what Kyle's team looks like next year.
Kyle's quarterbacks are kind of juiced, where he is like Anga, Pinnock is all of a sudden well,
You're
and
cutting out, brother.
Still cutting out.
gosh, what the hell?
Still cutting out. So
Kyle is the king of
random bullshit.
QB2s.
Yeah. He keeps trying to trade me Winston for a lot. Well, more than I'm willing to trade. And I'm like, I don't care enough.
What does he want a second?
I, I think at some point he did try going for a second, but I don't know. It's always some weird like combination of guys I'm mildly
Oh,
interested in for
he's
my
trying to turn
first.
something into a yeah.
So
Everyone always wants to get the premier asset out
it's
of
it's like, oh, I sent an offer for Aaron Jones, 3 months ago. So
it.
he's gonna package up Aaron Jones, Winston for a first or something like that. So like I don't know, just because Carr's injured for a couple of weeks. Um, but it's fair. You keep I tried trading like a fifth for Winston. Of course, he's gonna decline that. I'm like, I don't really
All
want to
right,
trade a fourth.
interesting players on my team. Who's interesting?
Okay, somebody interesting. I would say Elijah Moore. I want to see what's going on there. That's the biggest thing. Because he needs to actually, turn the targets into something. He caught all 9 last week, but it was for 49 yards and he fumbled. So does he keep getting targets? Probably. Does he do something with it? Also probably, but I want to see what happens.
Yeah, I want to see if he can turn that into some more yards.
Yeah.
I like the targets. I would say one more interesting player is Pitts, and we're seeing that Atlanta still doesn't want to throw the ball this year. So I think we're gonna have to wait for a future year
Also,
to
I'm
see.
keeping an eye on Trey Lance, seeing if he ever gets any.
I think Trey Lance is AFK this year.
All right.
Kyle Pitts is trash.
Oh, by the
Sam,
way,
I love the Sam updates in our chat every week. By the way,
Sam Laporta still outscoring Pitts.
I think he will outscore him this year. That offense does not throw the ball.
No.
Ritter is garbage.
Sam, where do you take Laporta in the draft if you have to redraft?
I think, as you guys are saying, like the 2-1 is like
2-1.
like just swap him with like Kincaid essentially. Like I
So
think he's
you
having
think
what Kincaid should have had, I guess.
I think this is more than what you would expect out of Kincaid. This is more than you would expect out of any rookie tight end almost ever.
Yeah, I agree.
So
It's a fantastic
it
start.
really comes down to if you believe that his production these 3 weeks is indicative of like almost I guess an all-time great tight end
Mm-hmm.
start, or if it's just a fluke and he's going to go back to what you would maybe expect out of Kincaid out of a rookie or tight end, which is maybe I don't know, 600 to 700 yards, 5 to 6 touchdowns.
I think I am curious to see what happens with the Lions offense once they get back some of their like weapons, because it's like,
JMO
yeah,
talking.
you just don't know.
Well, that's a good point. It's that's a very if we're talking Jack's team, um, when's he supposed to come back? How long's the suspension?
I think it's week 7 is his comeback.
And what did he draft him? 108? Oh wow. Huh. I thought that he went
Could
higher.
could have had Olave.
Still can't
But I
believe
had a
Olave
lot there.
dropped like he did.
1.10, bro.
1.10. I think
Hot
we
guy.
can comfortably say Andrew here. What do you guys
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, tanking team versus trying team. We're gonna go Andrew.
Okay, the player I'm most interested on Jack's team is Kirk Cousins actually, and where he will be. Because
I
I don't
I'm
know if
not.
he's going to be on the roster this
I'm
week.
interested in where he will end up. I'm not interested in his scoring this year. I'm very confident he's gonna be a top 5 quarterback this year.
He just passes the ball all game long.
50 times a game.
Yeah.
The Minnesota defense is garbage. The weapons on Minnesota insane. 1 year contract though, so probably not going to be on Minnesota next year. Interesting asset. He should be moved off of Jack's roster for sure.
All right, Puka,
Very interesting.
want to see the
Begin.
continuation
I'm
here.
beginning to begin more and more in the Puka.
Cooper is coming back.
Supposedly week 5.
Who knows, bro?
That's the hope. All right, we shall see.
He's been
Who
damn
else?
productive to start.
Interesting that Andrew is a contender again this year potentially.
A real quick turnaround, huh?
He's trying.
Yeah.
I don't think I believe in it, but he's trying.
Yeah, I'd consider him more pretender, but I still think he has a very decent shot of getting into the playoffs. So, and
Yeah,
anything can happen.
anything can happen.
Anything can happen, and TJ Watt is a monster. So,
TJ
Dude,
Watt
TJ Watt,
he might just get you a 50 burger.
yeah.
he's so gross. He's just so fucking good.
He's like grosser. This is a ridiculous start to the season.
Bro,
So,
I was trying to trade for TJ Watt this entire offseason. Now I see why he didn't trade him.
I think sometime during the injury, I was offering, while he was still, I think it was last year, and he was going to come back from injury, right? I was trying to trade for him. I offered a first, second, and a third, and he wanted two firsts, and he was right.
Yeah.
He was right. That's crazy.
I don't know if any defensive players were 2 firsts.
I think if
If
anyone
anyone
is,
would be, it is
TJ
Watt.
Watt.
But yeah, okay.
I think if
He
anyone's
has
worth two first, it's those elite edges, top three, top four
I don't think
edges.
is anybody that is is there any player that is a productive guy that is semi old? Is any guy like that worth 2 firsts?
Okay, but we're changing what you originally said then. You were saying no defensive players worth two firsts.
Yeah, true.
Would you accept two firsts for Micah?
They were good firsts, mid firsts at least.
Okay, see, now we're changing it again. So two low firsts isn't worth it, I don't think, for Micah, right?
Too low firsts is garbage, bro.
Yeah. All right.
Don't give me your. I don't want your second rounders.
So I think impact players or impact position here is definitely D-line. He has Mason Crosby, Kwity Paye, Rashawn Gary, TJ Watt. Like, those are
Easily the best DL in the league.
yeah, those are some scary DLs.
On Jack's side, I am very curious about the continued development of Karloftis. But like, actually, he had a great end to last season. He had a really good end to last season. You're looking at first round capital, end of the first round capital, 5.5 sacks in the last 7 games. Couple it's just fumble recoveries, but still.
Not to
So,
mention he's the son of Zeus.
and he's the son of Zeus. So look at this man. Look at this face. If that's not the face of a Greek warrior, I don't know what is. So,
I wish this was a video podcast.
so we'll. What do you mean, Sam?
It is.
Oh, are we? It
Everyone's
is a
seeing
video?
This
that.
is recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, the screen's recorded.
Perfect. Exactly.
I don't think anyone's watching at the hour 40 mark, but I've given up on trying to pretend that this is going to be a short podcast.
Karloftis is someone I was trying to get in the draft that first year.
I wanted him.
Yeah.
I wanted him. 4.04. You got to feel really good though if you're getting him in the fourth, and he puts up 6 sacks in the first year and is looking
Oh,
strong
for
in
sure.
the second year. Really nice to get those defensive ends that are producing early because it's hard to tell, which ones are actually going to become good or not.
I think someone also like to look at would be Justin Herbert. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but he's had an insane start to the season. So wheels up on Justin.
All right. Well, we're gonna revisit our predictions. Maybe we should have mentioned. I don't know.
We can look back at that on the next week's podcast where
Mhm.
we write
Yeah.
what did we overlook.
Yeah, and then what we can do is we can have running. I think they do it on the NFL, right, Sam?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, they have the running scores.
Oh yeah, running
Yeah.
scores.
Yeah. So we'll see. So far, it's
We're starting 4 weeks in. It's okay.
it's okay. Okay.
Better
So-
now than never.
So we'll
I
have.
think
This.
a lot of our records will be pretty bad right now.
Yeah.
Probably. I'm definitely going to predict myself almost every
I
week. So,
definitely would have predicted myself 3-0.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to end the recording. Guys,
We're ending the recording without finishing the matchups?
didn't we finish
No,
the
we did.
matchups?
We did.
Okay. That's fine.
Just
To
leave
our
someone out.
loyal viewers, thank you for sticking with us for all this time. Anything to say as we sign off? Alec?
YouTube, please give us money.
Sam?
We love money. And we also love Kenan Williams.
All right, that's as
More
good as
love
we're
to
going to get.
DTs.